What's up everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we've got Alexander Gustafsson praising Khamzat Chimaev, Eugene Bareman on how he'd like the UFC 271 main event to go, Julianna Peña on her upcoming gig on The Ultimate Fighter, and much more. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel to see more videos just like this. Now let's get into it. Alexander Gustafsson says Khamzat Chimaev outworks him and never gets tired. With how he's been finishing his fights, it's safe to assume that Khamzat Chimaev is an incredibly hard-working fighter while in training. Now, here's former light heavyweight title contender Alexander Gustafsson confirming what we pretty much already had an idea of. Khamzat loves to train, a lot. The two have been training together at All Stars Training Center in Sweden for quite some time, and Gustafsson is incredibly impressed by what Khamzat can do, saying he's able to hit like a heavyweight, is strong like one as well, but he's fast like a lightweight. Case in point, Gustafsson had this to say in a recent interview on the MMA Hour this week.
No, he works harder than I ever worked. I think right now he's doing 5 sessions a day at least. Yeah, at
Holy
least.
Smokes!
I'm telling you, this guy doesn't. In my prime.
Yeah.
If I'm allowed to say that, in my prime, when I fought Jon and those guys back in the days, I did 3 sessions a day. I did 3, and I sparred I did 20 rounds every sparring. My condition was crazy, but this guy, he outworks me. He doesn't get tired.
Gustafsson is no slouch either, as he's been at the top of the light heavyweight division for several years, fighting for titles, but he only just came up short. Now, he's moving up to heavyweight and has a scheduled fight against Big Ben Rothwell on May 21st. Meanwhile, Khamzat is currently in talks to fight former welterweight title challenger Gilbert Burns, most likely for UFC 273 on April 9. Gustafsson has been praising Khamzat's name for the last year anytime he's interviewed, as he's trained with Khamzat for a long time and understands what he brings to the table in terms of fighting. What do you make of Gustafsson's statements here concerning Khamzat's work ethic? Eugene Bareman, Israel Adesanya's coach, says he hopes for a whitewash in upcoming UFC 271 title rematch. The last time Robert Whittaker and Israel Adesanya stepped into the octagon was October 2019. It was a middleweight title unification bout at UFC 243 and pitted New Zealand against Australia, a dominant champion versus an undefeated interim champ who was looking to build his legacy. Adesanya made mincemeat of Whittaker in that fight, winning by knockout in the second round and becoming a global superstar. This time around, Whittaker says he's made the improvements, both physical and mental, that he believes will finally put him past the last stylebender. But Adesanya's coach, Eugene Bareman, has other plans and has nothing to do with finishing. Bareman, the 2020 MMA Coach of the Year, wants Adesanya to be undeniable in their rematch at UFC 271 on Saturday. Case in point, in a recent appearance on Submission Radio, Bareman said this.
People aren't going to agree with me, but the ultimate thing you can do in fight sports, I think, is not a knockout. It's a whitewash. And so what I would like to happen is just a 5-round whitewash where there is no stoppage this time, but like every round is just accumulative damage, and just it just leaves no doubt. It's 25 minutes of mastery.
This is a sentiment that is shared by some of the world's best fighters, including Valentina Shevchenko and Floyd Mayweather, taking someone into deep waters and not drowning them, but showing them that they not only cannot hang with you, but that they never could, all while causing more and more damage and take their spirit away. Well, that's how you truly become a bona fide legend in the sport. It's an incredible mindset, and one that isn't surprising, given how Adesanya carries himself away and also in front of the cameras. He's constantly talked about how he wants to be considered the greatest of all time, and this includes performances that will leave no doubt as to who the best really is. While Bareman goes on to give Whittaker a lot of credit for being able to fight his way back to a middleweight title fight, he believes that Adesanya simply has too much for him, and then he's made improvements as well that will be enough to walk away with the belt again. What do you make of Bareman's comments on how he wants this fight to go? Do you agree? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to take a second to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on the latest fight news. Michael Bisping believes Stipe Miocic deserves interim heavyweight title fight against Jon Jones. The current heavyweight champion, Francis Ngannou, will be out at least 6 to 9 months, and the UFC is looking to see what they can do at the top of the heavyweight division. For many, including former champions, there's really only one thing that makes sense: an interim title fight between longtime MMA great Jon Jones and the best heavyweight champion of all time, Stipe Miocic. If you ask Michael Bisping, he's 100% behind this idea and said as much in a recent episode of his podcast. This is what he had to say.
That's a fucking sensational matchup. That is an attractive fight for Jon Jones to come back. That is an attractive fight for Stipe Miocic. And if you throw in the interim heavyweight title, again, it's another reason why both men would want this. And if and when Francis Ngannou comes back, they fight Francis Ngannou then.
Bisping joins fellow former UFC champion Daniel Cormier in supporting an interim heavyweight title bout between Stipe and Jones. It simply does make the most sense at this moment. Stipe, the greatest UFC heavyweight of all time with 3 title defenses, the most out of all heavyweight champions, up against the longtime light heavyweight champion and superstar fighter Bones, who's only just making the move up to heavyweight. Jones's last light heavyweight title defense happened in February 2020, exactly 2 years ago this week, and soon after he vacated the title to challenge for a heavyweight belt at some point. While a fight against Francis Ngannou was talked about and the hype became very real, ultimately this never came to fruition, as both fighters and the promotion couldn't see eye to eye on the fight purse, among other things. Now, with the champion out for an indefinite period of time, the division is in a bit of a holding pattern until he can return. In the meantime, an interim title fight would allow for the division to continue on good standing, with top contenders vying for the hardware, until Ngannou can come back for another title unification bout. But what do you think? Do you agree with Bisping that Stipe should be tapped to fight Jon Jones for an interim heavyweight belt? Or is there another fight to be made here?
At the home temple, home to some real motherfuckers. Left and right, I'm not the only one here that's a bad motherfucker. Many bad motherfuckers here. But not your that got kicked out from here. Damn it. I know it hurts every time you see that shit. I know what a sensitive you are and how you read comments and cry. I can't imagine every time you see this symbol, it just hurts, man. Keep talking shit though. I can't wait, man. March 5th is getting closer. So is this knee to your temple. Not only am I gonna break your face in a very violent way, but the UFC's gonna see you as such a liability that they're gonna kick you out, bro. And then it's gonna be back to Indian reservations where you could fight. Maybe you could co-main event or some shit like that, because I don't even think you can main event after I'm done with you in any show. I'm gonna f you up, man. Keep talking that shit though, man. March 5th can't come close enough. See you soon.
Being a coach on The Ultimate Fighter is a bucket list item for Julianna Peña. Being a coach on The Ultimate Fighter is a massive boost for a fighter's career, and it allows them to show fans who they really are, sell themselves to new fans, and allows the fighter to shine in front of the cameras. Julianna Peña knows this all too well, as the current UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion was once a competitor on TUF Season 18 as part of Team Miesha Tate against Team Ronda Rousey. Peña won that season's competition, which was the first all-female season of TUF. That was 8 years ago, and now Peña is riding high as the Bantamweight champion, having defeated longtime, now former champ Amanda Nunes in an incredible upset this past December. The UFC is throwing the kitchen sink in promoting the rematch for this title fight and have tapped Peña and Nunes to become coaches on the upcoming season of TUF 30. For Peña, it's the culmination of years of hard work. This is what she had to say in a recent interview about the opportunity.
This is something that I've always wanted to do. It's something that I have always put on my bucket list as far as giving back to the next generation of fighters coming up. And I just can't wait to see the success of my team and to help them be the best fighters that they can be.
This season, we'll see her coaching female flyweights as well as male heavyweights for Team Peña. It all comes full circle for the Venezuelan vixen, as she looks to use the show as a jumping off point to showcase her personality, on her way to a rematch to solidify her stance as the UFC Women's Bantamweight Champion. What do you think? Do you believe Peña will beat Nunes in the rematch? Or do you think this fight will go the other way and Nunes will dominate? Let us know in the comments. Following UFC Fight Night loss, Sam Alvey says he needs a break but will continue to fight. After his second-round submission loss at the hands of Brendan Allen this past weekend at UFC Fight Night at the UFC Apex in Vegas, some were calling on Sam Alvey to hang up the gloves. The loss was Alvey's 7th in 8 fights and continues his 8-fight winless streak, tying the longest winless streak in the history of the UFC with former champion BJ Penn. The loss was also made worse given that his opponent, Brendan Allen, only took the fight on short notice. But Alvey has other plans and believes that this is just a bump in the road, although he does admit that something needs to change. Case in point, this is what Alvey said in a recent IG post.
I've lost a step. Something needs to change, and I'm gonna make the correction. I'm not done fighting, but I love this sport. And you know what? Before God has blessed me, I raised God's name on high. I would not have the career I've had without him, and I really have had a good career. I've had a long career. I've had that was my 23rd fight in the UFC. I've had a career that people dream of.
Alvey goes on to say that he'll be taking a bit of a hiatus and work on other things in the meantime. He plans to push his YouTube channel while also help coach other fighters. The last time Alvey won was in June of 2018 when he beat Gian Villante by split decision, but it's been downhill since then as he's lost 7 of 8, twice by submission and twice by TKO. While he is incredibly tough, things haven't been going right for Alvey over the last few years, and at 35 years old, he does have time to turn it around, although it remains to be seen if he can actually do that and put together a string of wins to at least get into the top 15 of the middleweight division. Still, he's a veteran of the sport and has been fighting since 2008, joining the organization in 2014, although he did take part in the Ultimate Fighter 16, fighting for Team Shane Carwin in 2012. What are your thoughts on Alvey saying that he'll be taking a hiatus from fighting? Do you believe he can turn it around and put together a string of wins when he comes back? Thanks so much for joining us today and catching up on all things MMA. What do you make of what's going on in the fight world? Make sure to like this video and subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on all the latest news from MMA world. See you next time.